Today, let's focus on God's perfect timing. You know, as believers, we are sometimes fond of saying, God's timing is perfect. But did you know that this is more just an happy saying? There is actually proof in God's Word that His timing is perfect. And I believe that if we are not careful, our honesty action will lead for us to miss God's timing. You might ask, how can this be? Well, recently in studying Genesis, I was reading the story of the covenant God gave to Abraham. God promised Abraham not just that he would have a son and heir, but his descendants would be as many as the stars. But there was a warning too, that Abraham's descendants would be strangers in a foreign land for 400 years, and they would be mistreated and enslaved. It was a promise, but also with a warning. But if you read Exodus 12, something unusual is said. Although God told Abraham his descendants would be enslaved for 400 years, in Exodus 12 we are told that it was actually 430 years. Why 430 years, you may ask, when God promised Abraham that it would be 400 years? But to get to the answer, I believe that we have to look at the life of one of Abraham's descendants, and that is Moses. There is in fact a summary of Moses' life in Acts chapter 7. And in verse 23, here is what he said. When Moses was 40, he decided to visit his own people. It doesn't say that God told him to go, just Moses took it on himself and decided to go. I believe that one decision and the other to follow set off a chain of events. It led to Moses taking matter in his own hand, brutally killing an Egyptian, and then having to flee for his own life and live in exile for 40 years. Was all of that God's original plan? Well, we don't know for sure, but what we do know is that God told Abraham the Israelites would be in bondage for 400 years, but we actually found out that they ended up to stay for 430 years. Could it be that by taking matter in his own hand, Moses had skipped ahead of God's timing? Listen to what Habakkuk 2 and verse 3 tells us. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come and will not tarry. In other words, God has an appointed time for all things. And if we let our natural impulse, anger, impatience, and insecurity take over, we run the risk of walking out of God's perfect timing. So, here is a lesson for all of us today. We cannot accelerate or slow God's timing when it seems that God is taking too long to fulfill His promise. In the waiting time, it can be easy to grow discouraged and despondent and to want to take matters in our own hands. But God's timing is perfect, and He knows what is best for us, and He also knows what is the best for the future that lies ahead of us. It may seem that now nothing is happening, but what God has purposed will most certainly come to pass, and we should avoid the temptation to run outside of His perfect timing and perfect will. So if God's timing is not lining up with your timeline today, be encouraged. His timing is perfect, and with God, delay is not denial. God bless you.